So October 9th was IFS Day, which is International Indian Foreign Service Day. And I texted all my friends here in the High Commission, congratulating them on the fantastic job they had done with what happened in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And the response of the High Commission in terms of how they galvanized forces within India and made sure that a neighbor in trouble was helped out at its time of utmost need. So my sense is that the MEA and the way it operates, at least the way I've seen it in Sri Lanka, is exemplary and fantastic. And I wanted your views on that. But I want to move further. Actually, there are two questions to this. In the recent past, the pronouncements of S. Jaishankar, who's a foreign minister, seems to have a certain muscular assertiveness to it. In the way he expresses India's position with clarity, and given the changing dynamics in the global order, it's very interesting to see that level of clarity in terms of what India's position should be on key issues, and having to express that with such conviction makes one feel rather proud. So I wanted to hear your views, because some of his articulations are Tharoor-esque, if I might use the word.
I don't know if that's a compliment to him or not, but let me say that I'm a big fan of the MEA. I think it's a very, very good ministry. I think its problem is that it's deeply short-staffed. I think that we have about the same number of professional diplomats as New Zealand or Singapore, which are tiny countries by comparison with India and its globe-straddling interests and responsibilities. So when I was chairman of the External Affairs Committee of Parliament, I fought very hard to expand the size of the MEA. And to some degree, this is gradually happening. But it takes a while to see that impact, because the expansion, such as it is happening only at the entry levels. And then you have to wait for the people hired now to acquire the experience and become part of a strong, effective tooth, as it were, of the country abroad. But I would say that for India, it's extremely important to have an effective foreign ministry, and, as you say rightly, to station people abroad who have a commitment to achieving results where they are. We can't have the old days of process-oriented bureaucracy and diplomacy, where it's more important to make sure the form is right than worry about the impact. Today, a lot of the work that diplomats are doing is cutting-edge stuff. As you said, in Sri Lanka, there's serious economic diplomacy required, and there is also work to heal really deeply troubled situations in foreign countries that matter to us. I have always argued, even when I was minister, that we need to have an acknowledgement of asymmetrical relationships in the subcontinent. We are so much bigger than our neighbors in terms of both size, population, and GDP, that we undoubtedly displace more weight around the table when we sit with our neighbors. So all the more reason why we should give more than we take. And I think that's been India's approach in places like Sri Lanka, the Maldives, Bangladesh, and so on. And so it should be. I think so it should be. So I'm very supportive of our boys and the girls as well, and the approach they've taken here in Sri Lanka. On Jaishankar, I think he speaks with great clarity. He has a very quick mind. I've known Jaishankar for a long time. After all, he used to be a career diplomat at a time when many of us were sort of dealing with the foreign ministry, in my case, even serving in the foreign ministry as minister when he was one of our ambassadors. And he's a very able, very quick-witted, well-spoken person. I think the only issue on which I've parted company with him is when some of his pronouncements for domestic audiences seem to exceed what is wise internationally. That is, that in these days, it is not possible for us to think that you can say one thing at home and something else in a foreign medium or to a foreign audience, because in the world of instant communication, social media, internet, and so on, all communication is global. Something I say to you now could easily whip up a controversy internationally tomorrow if I didn't watch my words. And I think once or twice, Jaishankar, being relatively new to politics, has found himself caught up in the enthusiasm of rabble-rousing within his own party. I mean, there was a comment or two to the Bharatiya Yuva Morcha, the youth wing of his party, at Cubbon Park in Bangalore, that I think he must have been mortified when it made headlines nationally and internationally, because it was really not what a foreign minister would say about foreign countries. And that led me to urge him to cool it, because that cooling it was not about his deliberately crafted international pronouncements. It was about being a little careful about things you say inside the country,
Sure.
not intending them to be heard abroad, but which they get heard abroad anyway.
Sure.